The WHO pandemic treaty and the bird flu crisis are both arriving at the same time, Michael Snyder reports. Health officials are issuing very ominous warnings about the potential for the H5N1 pandemic among humans at the same time that the WHO is preparing for a vote on the global pandemic treaty at the 77th World Health Assembly at the end of this month. The global pandemic treaty will give the WHO, the World Health Organization, far more authority than it had during the last pandemic, and a lot of people are deeply concerned about how that power will be used during the next major health crisis. And as you'll see below, 2 more human cases of bird flu have just been confirmed. If the bird flu mutates into a form that can spread easily from human to human, that will create an enormous amount of fear, and the death toll could potentially be catastrophic. In such an environment, what sort of extreme measures would the World Health Organization decide to institute? In recent weeks, negotiators have been feverishly working to finalize the global pandemic treaty. The following comes directly from the official WHO website. Governments of the world today agreed to continue working on a proposed pandemic agreement and to further refine the draft ahead of the 77th World Health Assembly that starts 27th May 2024. Governments meeting at the World Health Organization's headquarters in Geneva agreed to resume hybrid and in-person discussions over coming weeks to advance work on critical issues, including around a proposed new global system for pathogen access and benefit sharing, hence life-saving vaccines, treatments, and diagnostics, pandemic prevention and One Health, and the financial coordination needed to scale up countries' capacities to prepare for and respond to pandemics. Here in the United States, the mainstream media has been strangely quiet about this treaty, but it is a really big deal. Negotiations have been taking place for the last 2 years, and the plan is to submit the final draft for a vote at the World Health Assembly at the end of this month. The member state-led Intergovernmental Negotiating Body, INB, was established over 2 years ago to take this effort forward. The Bureau of the INB, which is guiding the process, will submit its outcome for consideration at the World Health Assembly. INB Bureau co-chair Dr. Precious Matsoso from South Africa said progress had been made during the latest round of discussions on a wide range of issues contained in the draft agreement. He said, "We're witnessing history playing out before our eyes during this process, with the coming together of all countries to decide a binding pact to protect all citizens of the world," said Ms. Matsoso. "This is not a simple exercise. It's the first ever process to develop a proposed agreement on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Getting this done means getting it right, and the INB Bureau is committed to help finalize a meaningful, lasting agreement," she said. The 77th World Health Assembly will be held in Geneva, Switzerland from May 27th to June 1st. Member nations will cast their votes on the final draft of the Global Pandemic Treaty, and it's fully expected to pass. We have been told that the Global Pandemic Treaty has been watered down, but in reality, all that has really changed is that some language in the treaty has been made more vague. If this treaty passes, when the next pandemic erupts, the WHO will be running the show, and most people in the general population do not realize this. And the next pandemic may be a lot closer than most of us think. On Wednesday, the CDC announced that there has been another confirmed human case of bird flu in the United States. The U.S. has documented the second case of bird flu in 2024. The Centers for Disease Control Prevention announced on Wednesday. Health officials identified the avian influenza case in a Michigan dairy farm worker. This is the second time a case has developed in a person working with dairy cows. The virus appears to have developed under similar circumstances as it did earlier this year for a farm worker at a dairy in Texas. A nasal swab for the infected person tested negative for influenza. However, an eye swab from the patient tested positive for bird flu, indicating an eye infection, the CDC said in the news release. So far, the 2 individuals in the U.S. have been infected in 2024 have both been dairy workers. There may be many more dairy workers that have been infected, but at this stage, a lot of those that work in the industry are very reluctant to get tested. Farmers have been reluctant to allow federal health officials onto their land to test potentially infected cattle amid uncertainty about how their businesses would be impacted. Farm workers have also been reluctant to participate in screening, and experts said it's likely due to a mix of fears over job loss, immigration status, language barriers, and general distrust in public health systems. Meanwhile, we just learned that H5N1 is responsible for the deaths of 4 more cats. 4 more cats died of H5N1 bird flu in the United States, including 2 pets in South Dakota with no links to poultry or dairy cows, according to state and federal officials. At least 14 cats have recently died of bird flu. Of the newly reported cases, 2 were domestic cats which died at a property in Campbell County, South Dakota, according to a state official and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA. Beth Thompson, the state's veterinarian, said there was no livestock on the property where the pets died. No other details regarding how the cats were infected are known at this time, Thompson told BNO News. This is not good. If cats start getting sick and dying on a widespread basis, it's probably just a matter of time before the same thing starts happening among humans. We don't know all of the details about these latest cat deaths, but it has been reported that cats that previously died of H5N1 in Texas experienced brain hemorrhaging and blindness. Does H5N1 have the potential to do the same sort of damage to humans? We need an answer to that question because more human cases are popping up all the time. In fact, there has now been a confirmed human case in Australia. A child has been confirmed as a first case of H5N1 bird flu in Australia. The child contracted the avian influenza and an A infection while in India and fell ill in March this year, according to Victorian health officials. The announcement came hours after bird flu was detected on a farm in Victoria. Since 2003, more than 50% of the humans that have tested positive for H5N1 have died. Can you imagine the fear that will erupt if millions of people suddenly get infected? Global pestilences will play a major role in the era of great chaos that's coming. Just think about the panic that we witnessed during 2020, 21, and 22. If the next pandemic has a far higher death rate, the pandemic that we will see will be so much worse, and that is really bad news for all of us. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Michael's new book entitled Chaos, available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon, and you can check out his new Substack newsletter right here. About the author, Michael Snyder, extremely controversial new book, Chaos, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work that he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. You can connect with Michael on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and share his articles on your own social media accounts. It's definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.